After a while, the second iteration of the EV1 had nickel metal hydride batteries. They are roughly twice the power of these lead-acid batteries. So that changed the EV1 from a shorter range vehicle to a much longer range vehicle, and it was a tremendous improvement. By the way, General Motors ended up with the patents for the high current nickel metal hydride batteries, so if you were to build one today, you'd be infringing on their patent. Oh, and by the way, not only did General Motors smash all of the EV1s, they also essentially dismantled the nickel metal hydride factory and smashed that out of existence as well. So they did nearly everything they could possibly think of to eradicate electric vehicles from the surface of the earth. That's part of why I got so mad at them. So these batteries, again, I could today go and buy lithium-ion batteries. They're available right now. It's simply a question of money. There's a company in China that makes them by the name of Thunder Sky. If I had the money, I could take those batteries out and put in a new set of lithium-ion batteries, and that would bring this vehicle into about a 200-mile range vehicle, probably even further. The two main reasons why lithium ions are so much better than lead acid. Well, first of all, they can store more electricity. And that's the single biggest factor. For the same amount of weight, because lithium is a metal, it's kind of similar to aluminum. It's not aluminum, it's a different metal, but it's silver and it's quite lightweight. So making a battery out of lithium instead of lead obviously will make it lighter. So for the same amount of weight, I can carry for less weight, I can carry far more power with a lithium battery than with a lead acid battery. Also, they're smaller. Now, because those batteries and the 6 more in front weigh almost as much as the entire vehicle, so the fact that I'm dragging around 1,800 pounds of lead has a big influence on my range. If I could take those out and put in lithium ions, more power and less weight that I'm pulling around with me. The third influence that lithium-ion batteries have on range is that they can discharge much further. So I can take these down to about halfway. So what that means is I've got a battery pack good for about 230 amp hours. That's how they're rated. About 100 of that is useful, and I'll show you on the meter how you read that. But once you've depleted about 100 amp hours out of the battery, you'll still go. You're not going to be stranded on the side of the road, but you're really going to be crawling. With the lithium-ion batteries, you can take them down to about 20% of their capacity. So they weigh less, and you can discharge them much further. So again, I could bring this up to a 200-mile car. That's a guess on my part, but it's a reasonably well-educated guess. Maybe even as much as 250 or even 300-mile range if I had lithium-ion batteries. They'd cost me about $20,000 to do, to replace them. Another big thing about lithium-ion batteries is that they last much, much longer. So this battery pack is good for about 700 cycles. So that's 700 times that I can essentially empty the gas tank, if you will, and then fill it up again. On that note, the most damage to these vehicles, what limits their lifespan, is how many times, like I just described, how many times you bring them down and charge them up again. The most damage to the batteries happens in the last little bit, the last topping up of the batteries. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is not letting the charger fill the batteries up to their capacity. Shortly before it gets to capacity, I'll disconnect. The other thing that I'm doing recently is, when I first got the vehicle, I would charge it up all the time. As soon as I got home, even if I only used maybe a couple of miles, I would still charge it up. Well, I'm not doing that anymore. Now what I'm doing is I'm waiting till I use about 40 or 50 amp hours, and then I'll charge it up again. So that helps in the long-term usefulness of the batteries. They'll be broken, if you will, much further down the road. Forgive the pun. So these have a useful lifespan of about 700 cycles. Lithium-ion batteries have a usable lifespan of something like 3,000 cycles. So when you translate that into days or years, if you will, if I'm charging up my batteries every 2 or 3 days now, the 700 cycles will get me into the 4-year lifespan. Lithium ions, when you talk about 3,000 cycles and you go through a cycle every 3 or 4 days, and that's another thing about lithium ions, because you can go so much further on a charge, you're going to use fewer cycles. Because of that, you've got a 20-year battery, probably, in a lithium ion pack. If it weren't for the money, I'd do it. I would happily do it. It would bring this vehicle so much further into mainstream viability. After all, being able to go 300 miles on a charge, that's an awfully long way. Another thing about batteries is you can charge them, for the most part, you can charge them as fast as you are able to. The batteries will take it. So that charger, the Manzanita charger, is capable of delivering about 30 amps or 35 amps. If I had a bigger wire coming from my house, if I had the bigger model of charger that they make, because they make a bigger one, at least that I know of, it's a 50 amp unit, then I could charge even faster. Lithium ion batteries, for example, you can charge them at astounding rates, like 1,000 amps or 10,000 amps. I mean, it's so much power that no house could ever deliver it. But as we develop the technology and as we develop charging stations, it's viable to have a, if you will, a stationary battery pack. You hook up to that and you're charged up in a matter of minutes. There's technology that would need to be developed in order to accomplish it, but the batteries themselves can do it. So for example, if you were at an industrial factory where they've got a much bigger power entry capable of delivering thousands of amps, well then you could do that. The batteries can take it. As long as you have a charging circuit to deliver it, the batteries will take it. Now the other thing that's interesting about this battery charger is it's got a little interface or a little communication system called BATreg. That's something that Manzanita Micro came up with. What it is it's a little controller unit on each battery cell or a couple of cells. So in my case I've got 26 cells. So in a lithium ion pack, you group them together into small groups of 4 or 5 cells. I'm not exactly sure how many. Well, what these BATregs do is they make sure, if you imagine I was in a chain of people, we need to all stay with the same amount of power in us. Well, what the BATregs do is they'll let the charger know, okay, I've got too much power, pass it on to the next guy. And so there's a chain of communication going on within the batteries, communicating with the charger, so that no one battery gets too hot or too cold, and it keeps them all in control. When you get into sophisticated battery systems like lithium ion, you need battery management systems to make sure you don't overcharge them, to make sure you don't deplete them too far, and to take care in how you charge them. My lead acid batteries don't need that kind of technology, but I have it when I move, when I change these batteries out for lithium ions, then my battery charger is already ready to go with that. The box in the front that you see, or may have seen earlier, that's the DC to DC converter. So I still have a radio and I still have, well, headlights and all that other stuff and windshield wipers and that stuff. That all runs on 12 volts. Well, I don't have a gasoline engine anymore spinning around with an alternator on it making 12 volt power. So the DC to DC converter takes my main battery voltage of 156 volts and it converts it down to 12 volts to run my other systems. That particular charger, to be honest with you, I'm not that happy with it because it draws power all the time, 24 hours a day. So even if I don't drive the car, tomorrow morning I'll see that I've used, oh, maybe 1 kilowatt hour. I'm hoping to do something about that. In fact, I'm going to put in a relay so that if the car is not turned on, the DC to DC converter won't be connected and it won't draw any power. That pretty much covers the back end of oh, actually there's one other thing. So because the Manzanita charger will take 110 volts, I carry one of these with me. So I can plug into the house and plug in my car and not be stranded in case I ever run out of power on the road somewhere. So in the back I have this stick. I have a wood stick because putting a metal stick into a big box of batteries would probably be a very bad idea. But it just holds up the lid.